Hey there, Tom here with Extreme Air Vents. Hopefully you watched the last video of the installation of the new skins bumper, Rasmussen skins bumper. Today, we're going to be changing out the front factory springs with ZBroz heavy duty progressive rate springs. It's upside down. It's not. It's just backwards in my phone. So anyways, taking the shocks off, the factory shocks, putting ZBroz springs on. If you're one of those guys that doesn't want to spend $1,200 on new shocks, this is a sweet upgrade. Spring kits are like, I think it's $200 for the fronts and like 60 or 70 bucks for the back. Got them direct from ZBroz. So let's take the shocks off. If you haven't watched the previous video of hood, bumper, taking the pipe out, all that, I recommend it. Again, we're on a 2021 Summit X 850 turbo, and these are the upgrades I'm doing. So stay tuned. Okay, for shock removal, 13 millimeter wrench. These snap-on swivel head impacts, their money, but totally worth it. Getting into tight places, so almost forgot. I better jack it up first. Okay, now that I got it jacked up, weight's off of it, so we can continue with taking this apart. There are spacers on these bottom ones, aluminum spacers on both sides. Don't forget to put those back on. If you already have the muffler out, makes it a lot easier. You can do it without taking the muffler out. Looks like we've got to go up a little higher. Okay, we're out. Okay, so we've got the shock over here on the workbench. A couple different ways to do this. On these shocks, you can thread this all the way down and you take out, should we just do it? Right here, see that? You can just peel this off, slide it up, then this, the spring tensioner will slide up to these next set of threads. If you don't take that off, it stops right there. But if you have a vise, you can loosen this all the way up. Probably not the approved way, but put two of the coils in your vise, compress them, you push forward, and that'll release that spring retainer. Release the press spring pressure. Springs out. Okay, you may notice that something's changed. It was my shirt. I realized in that last video that I had ordered the wrong springs right as I took them out of the package. I ordered the wrong ones. ZBroz was awesome. Sent the other ones back, and I think before they were even back, they'd already shipped me a new set. So I have the correct springs now. We will continue this install. So shock is sitting like this on the sled. So you'll have the small spring at the top bigger spring at the bottom. And ZBroz has this spring reducer, and I have found that it is extremely tight going into the spring retainer. So you have to kind of really get after it to get it in there. So if you just put a little bit of spring pressure down and get it in there, then you can start working the spring retainer into the spring reducer. And you can squeeze that spring reducer a little bit. But essentially, if you just work it on one side, start getting it around, and then kind of push it together, it'll snap down in there. I'm gonna grab a pair of channel locks to just squeeze this ring just a tiny bit so it'll seat into that spring reducer. So let me grab that. So if we give this just a little squeeze here to close up that gap. There we go. Okay. Spring retainer, it's still not quite all the way around, but it's pressed into that reducer. Now, you'll just set the spring rate like you would on the normal Skidoo shocks. So that's the after. The theory behind this is you've got a lighter rate spring here and a heavier rate spring here. So in that first quarter travel, it'll take up the little bumps better. But then on the big hits, the big spring comes in. In my experience, it's the exact same shocks on a 21 as I had on my 17. They're identical shocks. They weren't bad shocks. I'm not one of those guys that feels like that's the first thing you got to do on a Skidoo is get rid of the shocks. I don't mind the Summit X shocks, but I feel like the spring rates are always a little light, especially if you're bombing down whoop trails or hitting big jumps and you're experiencing a lot of bottoming. So on ZBroz website, they have you select the spring rate for your weight or riding style. So I had selected the springs the first time for my weight, but it says for aggressive riders, jumping, etc., order the next heavier spring. So that's what I did. We'll give them a try. I really don't feel like dumping 12 to 2,000. I've seen some more than that. Shocks, I'm not a sponsored rider. I paid for these with my own money. So yeah, I'm not gonna go dump $1,500 on shocks. But maybe $200 make a factory shock work better and not bottom as easily. So we'll definitely be testing that throughout the year. I've had reports from other riders, some racers actually, hill climb racers that ran these springs, said they worked. They made a really big difference on a stock shock. So we're gonna give it a go this season, let you know how it works out. But you can see that's a dang easy install, easy quick upgrade. So let's get it back on the slide. Okay guys, gonna install this factory shock back in. I've got the muffler back in. I wanted to show that this can easily be done. It's exactly the same as the unboxing video. It can be done with the muffler in, so you don't need to worry about taking the hood off, the muffler out to do shocks. So it should be like really easy. Get them back in there. I got this sled on a bit of on that jack, so you want that suspension dropped out as much as you can. And I missed the alignment there. There we go. Okay, the bolt's going to come from the inside. Then the bottom one I showed before has the 2 aluminum spacers. So you want to make sure you get those It's kind of goofy. It's a 12 millimeter on the inside, 13 millimeter on the nut. Why do they do that? Okay, that's all there is to it. I'll show you an after pic. They look pretty sweet. Okay, so this is the after picture video of the ZBroz springs. And I think they look pretty sweet. Definitely be testing those babies out, let you know how they turn out. So stay tuned for that. Of course, we still need it to snow. And something showed up today that I'm really excited about. So that video is coming soon. The new Force Turbos muffler. We will be doing that video start to finish, getting rid of the suitcase, putting in the new Force Turbos muffler, and it's going to be awesome.